Hi, everybody. Do we have anybody in yet? Oh, we do. I see some people starting to roll in. For those who are just starting to roll in, welcome. Give us a few minutes. We'll let everyone hop in. And actually, in a minute, we'll even do a bit of a poll coming in, but we do appreciate those who are joining us. Hope everyone has had a good week so far. We all have another 6 weeks. Is it 6 weeks of winter? It sounds like, especially in the Northeast, I know you guys are getting hit pretty hard or going to be getting hit pretty hard with weather.
Stupid groundhog.
I figured I could go with Valentine's Day, but I figured I'd go with dog. So for those who are joining, as we're waiting for the last few stragglers to come in, we're going to start with something we did last week before we do full intros. Just starting with 3 local SEO truths and a myth. This is something we started last month. We thought it was a great opportunity to kind of support those things that are true about local SEO and try and dispel those myths that are lingering. There are always a few out there. We hear them all the time. So the whole idea here is to try and put those to sleep and prop up those that are true. So we have 3 truths and a myth. The first one is publishing menu information to your Google profile not only informs customers, but helps with local SEO. Number 2, Google has no plans on sunsetting Google posts anytime soon. 3, when setting up local pages, subdomains are better than subfolders. Caveat in some instances, and we'll get to that. And then number 4, Google is removing large numbers of reviews from from business profiles without notification. So if you want to, we'll pop that poll up on the screen. And while we're waiting, would love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think this one can get a little tricky. So I'll be interested to see what everyone fills out.
I try and pick things that might be a little questionable if you're not fully up on everything that's going on in SEO, especially as things change. But that's one thing. Hopefully, everybody understands about SEO, especially local SEO. It changes constantly. I'm going to show you things today that if I showed you images and snapshots of what they looked like last year, they'd be completely different.
Mm.
So these things are always changing, which is why I love doing these. So give one more minute and then wrap things up. I know I was talking about the weather, Casey. Have you been hit by the ice storms and things? I forgot to ask you about that.
Yeah, the weather. So I'll be honest, I was hit harder by the flu over the past. So
Right.
I have not really seen much of the outside world. So from what I can tell, the weather hasn't been horrible. It is snowing a little bit today. But compared to how it was a few weeks ago here in Pittsburgh, man, it was freezing. So, I'll take anything.
Gotcha. For those who don't know, SOCi, we are spread out a lot. Casey is in Pittsburgh and I am out in Los Angeles or south of Los Angeles. So a lot of distance between us. But let's see, let's wrap up this poll. I know we've had it open for a while. I'm really interested and excited to see what people are saying. So what do we have? Let's see, at 20%, we have publishing menus. At 24%, we have Google has no plans on sunsetting posts. At 40%, when setting up local pages, subdomains are better. And at 16%, Google is removing large number of reviews from businesses. Great answers. It's all across the board. So let's dive into this. So first up, publishing menu information to your Google profile not only informs customers, but helps with local SEO. For those who've been with us since the beginning, back in June when we started this, I believe either in June or July, we published, this is true. We highlighted a study, or an article by Claudia Tomlin at Reputation Arm, who showed that they had a restaurant customer, and they had a interesting name for the salad. I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't Caesar salad, and they weren't showing up for Caesar salad queries. So they changed the name of their salad to just Caesar salad, and all of a sudden they started ranking really well for Caesar salads near them. So the idea is Google is paying attention to what you're putting in your menus, which makes sense if you think about it. Why would you lie about the food you have? That's a bad experience. It's the same thing as having Merchant Center, right? You are showing what you have in your store, and it makes sense that Google, or your restaurant, makes sense that Google would believe that and highlight it, use it for SEO.
I think uploading menus is an underrated tactic too. So aside from it being like a ranking factor for like restaurants, I've seen menus successfully used for other types of businesses as well, like auto repair shops, like a menu of services of
Yeah.
sorts. I've seen be successful in the past too. So it's okay to get a little creative in this section as well.
No, definitely. And honestly, this day and age, it makes me crazy when I can't find a regular menu and I have to go through the online order menu before I can actually see anything. As a customer, it drives me bonkers.
I think the other thing that I hate too is when the menu on a listing is just an image.
Mm.
Experience that where it's just like an image. Somebody took a picture of the menu and then Google's like, oh, here's the menu. And I'm like, that's probably outdated. So, having it there from a customer experience standpoint is huge as well.
Oh, definitely. And that's probably why Google, I know it was maybe 6 months ago or so, they announced that you can upload your menu, just the image, and then Google will figure it out from there if you need to. So I think they realize that some people are lazy. Just
Yeah.
want to do it that way. Google has no plans on sunsetting Google Posts anytime soon. Sorry. This is true. In fact, couple things. Number one, we've seen over the past month or two, Google's starting to expand what they're doing. We've seen Google Offer Posts start to appear in desktop, which hadn't for a very long time. And then also something we'll talk about in the industry updates, we're starting to see posts appear in the photo carousels atop Google Maps profiles. On top of that, we just spoke with Google last week. We speak to them monthly, and there was a Google search conference recently, and apparently they went in expecting like we'll probably deprecate posts, and they left with renewed excitement about it. Apparently, there was a lot of great conversations around it. They've told us they are looking to expand it for certain industries. Can't say much more right now, but I will say start taking advantage of offer posts, especially. Google really wants to highlight these more for different industries, and the more that businesses are using them, the more likely they are to take advantage and try and
Uh-oh. We
available.
may have lost. There we go.
Oh,
Are you
okay.
there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry about that. So take advantage of these bottom line. Google really is planning on expanding this year. So yeah. We'll go to this one. When setting up local pages, subdomains are better than subfolders. So partially true, and I'll hand this off to Casey on this one.
Yeah, guys, I have to apologize. It's actually I'm having poor connection on my end. So if something happens and you can't hear me, Mike, please step in and
We
take.
can hear you right now. So
Okay, good.
yeah.
This one is an interesting one from subdomains and subfolders. It's actually highly debated, I would say, online. But this is true. When it comes to your local landing pages, we have found, and this has been confirmed by others across the web, that it is typically a really successful tactic to put your local landing pages on a subdomain, not necessarily a subfolder. One of the main reasons for this has to do with crawl budget. If you are a large, enterprise business with a lot of pages on your website, it can be really beneficial to designate your subdomain as like a separate section of your site. John Mueller has actually confirmed that they are independent of each other. And so when considering crawl budget, Google looks at both of those sites. So it allows your pages to get picked up, your updates to get picked up a little bit faster. And really from our perspective, there are no downsides. So, at the end of the day, if you're choosing between subdomain, subfolder, Google looks at them the same and then may actually crawl your subdomain pages a bit faster. So we have found that that is the better solution most of the time.
And for those who don't know, John Mueller is a Google, I don't know what is, I guess he's senior search analyst, but he works at Google. So when he says these kinds of things, they're pretty true. He's clarifying these things for us. So. And then lastly, Google is removing a large number of reviews from business profiles without notification. If you have been plugged into SEO news at all this week or looking at your profiles and seeing reviews disappear, you probably know that there's a thing going on there, but it is a myth that they're actually removing the reviews. We figured out what this is, and Google actually announced it right afterwards, and we'll get to that in the news tips and tricks. But first, We should introduce ourselves.
We should. For those of you that are repeat customers, welcome back. We are so happy to have you at the Juice. For those of you, if this is your first Juice session, hello, I am Casey McBride, SOCi's Director of Customer Experience. I have the pleasure of managing an awesome team of subject matter experts here at SOCi that help our customers essentially level up their local marketing. And I am joined by Michael Snow.
Yes, and I am the SEO enablement manager and what I like to call local SEO evangelist, because I am talking with customers all the time. I'm talking internally all the time about what Google's doing, what's new, and how to take advantage. And as we all know, SEO never stops. So let's jump right in. Today, we'll be covering a couple different things, regular industry news that we do, CCO or customer choice optimization revisited. So we've talked about this in the past, but want to take a deeper dive into this and really how to look at this for your industry. I'm going to go into, Casey's going to look at anatomy of a Google business profile. One of the things we'll see in the CCO one is that there's so many different ways your profile can appear. And so that anatomy can change. So we're looking at individual features within those profiles and where they could appear and how to address those. So that'll be a new feature we're doing. The usual checkbox optimization. Are there any new categories, attributes, features? And then, of course, anything we've caught in the wild that's weird and interesting and haven't been able to really talk about or figure out a talk track on yet, but wanted to show you. So, and so we'll just jump right in with industry news. And Casey, you want to?
Yeah, so this one is our highly tied to our myth today, right? So over the weekend, there were all of these reports, right, of, oh my God, Google's removing my reviews. What's going on? Google is removing my reviews. And very quickly, folks in the industry, even our very own Mike Snow, noticed that that wasn't necessarily the case. So it's not that your reviews are disappearing. It's not that Google is removing all of your reviews in bulk. It's actually that Google is counting wrong. Google is miscounting your totals. And thankfully, this is a known bug. Google is aware. Google has made statements on it. And so at this time, if you are noticing this happening to your business, it should be resolved soon. There's no further action that needs to be taken. This is one that Google took accountability for right away, and hopefully this will be resolved. But it caused quite a stir the past, I would say, 4 days while everybody was trying to figure out what is going on to my reviews.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Anytime someone says my reviews are just disappearing, I get a little suspect because Google is really good about notifying businesses when they're pulling reviews, even if they're fraudulent, they'll let you know outright. So when I heard that reviews were disappearing like this, it really made us want to go, hey, what is going on here? Is this really happening? Is there something more going on? And one of the things I will say, if you use a platform like ours where you're connected to Google's API, they're sending you the right number of reviews. None of the reviews have disappeared. So you can look at your count in a platform like ours and then compare it to what's on Google. And if there is a difference, you can trust what's in the platform right now.
Absolutely.
Next one, this is something that could be very interesting, and I'm actually curious to know if you've gotten a call from this already. Please let me know. Please drop a note in the chat. But Google Search Labs has started a new experiment called Ask for Me. It basically, you can see here in this image that Google provided, what it does is when you do a search, let's say you're looking for an auto shop near you, below the results, there is this little Ask for Me button. And when you click on it, you can add what service you need, and Google will contact that shop and find out, what they charge for that service and when it's available. And they promise to respond within 30 minutes. So it's very, very interesting how this will work. What we know about it so far is that Ask for Me uses something called Duplex. It's a Google technology launched in 2018 for conducting natural conversations. It can sound spammy if we were all used to getting robocalls, so we're probably really good at that. So it could sound spammy. I'll be really curious if Google, if these robocalls announce themselves, like saying, hey, we're going to do X.
Yeah.
But it is something that as a business you should be aware of, because you don't want to hang up on it, right? Like if it really is coming to you with a potential lead, you want to make sure to interact with this. The post that went out about it said the experiment is primarily focusing on auto shops and nail salons, but believe I saw Darren Shaw posted a video for a whole different industry doing this. So I think it's actually testing with more than just these two industries, but this is what the announcement said. So again, would be very interested to know if anyone has gotten these calls so far.
Yeah, goodness, please let us know. We would love to know what they sound like.
Yeah, and I'm still on the waiting list, so I haven't been able to use this myself to see how it works for the customer. It says businesses can opt out if they wish, though I could not find any info on how and where you would opt out and why you would opt out. Like, is it when you get called, can you opt out? Is there something else? No information on that yet, but very interesting feature. And if you are a service business, make sure that whatever, again, I don't know how Google's getting in touch. I'm guessing it's the phone call. Make sure that those phones are manned and that you're paying attention to these. All right.
All right. Moving forward, so we are seeing review snippets from your featured keywords, like in your reviews, alongside photos in business results. So these are a couple examples that Mike found out in the wild. What I think is really interesting is that it can change based on like what you type into the query box. Apologies, I'm still recovering. And so I think that's really cool. It's kind of like Google's way to help like enhance the experience and help like, you know, entice the user essentially to the listing. And so some of the observed behavior, we are seeing that up to 3 review snippets may appear. Each snippet is tied to some kind of popular keyword. So again, that kind of like relevance in your search results, as well as a relevant photo. And then clicking on the review snippet will open a window with additional related review snippets and other photos. And currently it only appears on the Google Maps app. Thanks, bye. And so, you know, from a recommendation standpoint, make sure that you have some photos uploaded that are relevant to keywords that are being typed in. This is something that we actually talk to customers about a lot. It's not about just adding photos of like your business and, you know, what it looks like, but it's also getting relevant photos around what it is that you do, what you provide. Because Google understands those photos. And now on top of that, they're tying it to like review content. And so being able to utilize that as a snippet is awesome.
Yeah. And one of the things I found too, and we get a lot of questions on is, well, I'm an enterprise business. We have a lot of stores. Do I have to take a picture in every store I have? Well, especially with enterprise type businesses, with brands, with franchises, usually the store looks very similar and the experience and the space looks very similar, as long as it looks like the experience that a customer can expect. So for instance, here, this 9-round boxing one, this is a stock photo. This, or not a stock photo, but it's a stock for them, not that they took it out of the wild, but it's a photo that's uploaded to lots of listings. Google sees that though as representing the experience in that location, so they're okay with that, right? So that's something to think about. I will say, as a continuation of this one, we didn't just find review snippets in the photo carousels on Google Maps. We also found Google Posts. So I hinted at this before. This is another thing I was very surprised to find. I wasn't expecting this. I was just looking to see what was the maximum number of reviews I could find. And lo and behold, I came across some Google Posts. Some observed behavior around this. The posts appear vertically oriented, so the image may be cropped, if not formatted the same way. I didn't see any landscape kind of posts. They were all vertical. It highlights the first 50 or 60-ish characters of the post copy. I just kind of did a manual look at, you can see here, you know, the characters that show up. And it does not seem to limit the number of review snippets that may appear. So we mentioned in the previous slide, up to 3 snippets may appear. If you have a post, it's not limiting a review snippet from appearing. That post is appearing, and that's great. So recommendations. You'll want to format, if you're posting, you'll want to maybe format your posts and your copy to get the maximum impact when it's presented this way. So grab your customer attention with a short, impactful headline. Like, Acceptance obviously didn't do this on purpose because they posted this before we discovered this, but ride with acceptance, ride with confidence, ride with acceptance. That's great. That's like, boom, that tells you something. Sometimes all a senior needs is caring companionship, right? Like just something that's going to grab someone's attention. If you're going to save them money, if you're, what is it that's going to grab your customer's attention? We'll talk about that in a minute in customer choice optimization. But do that. And then also maybe, even though Google recommends a one-to-one formatted photo, so a square photo, you may want to make sure your content is staying within that middle 3/5 of the frame so it appears, because you can see things are sliding off the side. So I think this is really great. From what I could tell, all the usual Google post guidelines apply. Like Google will highlight the thing that's most relevant. If it's near the holiday, I'm sure Valentine's posts are showing up a lot right now in these kind of carousels. So again, Google posts are not dead. Take advantage.
We did have a question in the chat,
Oh,
Mike,
yes.
and it was around the review snippets. So are images in reviews being used? We have some centers that are having techs take photos with homeowner and having them upload the actual image to the review. Have you noticed if an image is being used, if it's being pulled up at all from the review itself?
That's a great question. I don't know, and I may pull that aside and follow up in our next session or send something out. Like I'll look into this a little more. It's a very good question.
Absolutely.
For photos. Okay. We will follow up on that one. And so last one, just a really quick one. I thought this was really nice. I'm in the LA area. Thankfully, the fires out here didn't affect me, but I noticed a little too late. I only noticed this last week, but because there really wasn't a lot of fanfare about it. But in the wake of fires, Google has added a call out for hotels, specifically in the LA area, to call out discounts for people displaced by the fire. If you are in the LA area, you may get this little bit showing up in your Google Business profile. And when you do mark this, there's a little heart.
Uh-oh. Is this just on my end, or did we just lose Mike?
I think we just lost Mike.
Oh no, I thought I was the one having connection problems. Hi, everyone. All right, let me see what I can do. Let me pull it up and take over. Mike, come back. Mike. Guess what day it is? Anyone else remember that commercial? Okay, let me. Oh my gosh.
I appreciate everyone's concern in the chat for Mike.
I know. Here we go. What Mike was touching on before was obviously the discounted hotel alerts. I think it's something really great that Google was doing to make up for any displaced individuals in the SoCal area. I don't know if some of these messages are still up. I would assume they will be up for the foreseeable future, but just something really cool that Google was doing. Moving forward, so we actually have a poll for you all, another poll. And our question for you is, what is the most important factor for you when you are choosing a local business? So, are you caring a lot about what is ranking first? Are you caring a lot about what's rated the highest? Are you looking for a bargain? Is it going to save you money? Is there information around like offers, things like that? Oh, it looks like Mike is back.
Yeah, apologies. My computer just shut off on me while I'm sitting
You're
here.
totally fine. Everybody was very concerned in the chat, so we're happy that you're back with us.
Thank you.
So yeah, fill out this poll. Let us know what matters most to you when you are looking around for a local business. Oh yeah, somebody in the chat said hump day. When you were gone, Mike, I was like, Mike.
Yeah, it was weird. Everything just shut right down. I thought I unplugged or something happened. I don't know. That's never happened.
Listen, between you and then I'm having some technical, every 5 seconds I get a message that says my connection's unstable.
Oh no.
We're
You
feeling.
want me to, since you're unstable, let me take over. I could take this over again.
Yeah, let's take over. You can share your screen. Let's do that just in case my connection is deciding to.
And hopefully I won't drop off again. So, all right, did we give everyone another few seconds?
It's probably been up for enough time. Let's see what everybody.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. I like this. So highest rankings only 3, highest rated 37%. That makes sense. It's going to save me money. 3% has information confirming they have the product. 32, that's great. Has images. 16, and depends on the business. 11%. So that makes sense. I was expecting a little all over the place. How about you, Casey? What about you?
Yeah, so I'm not surprised that rated, like the star rating was the highest.
Yeah.
The highest chosen, because I mean, I feel like we hear that from everyone. I feel like if you think about even like your own behavior, my own behavior, it's like depending on where it appears, I still look for the highest star rating.
Oh, definitely.
So yeah, this makes sense. Nothing too shocking.
No. So this is why we're going to stop in, but it isn't always just highest rated, right? We talked about the information, the images, like there are other things that factor in. And so that's why we want to talk about CCO. Most of our customers really focus on, am I ranked number one? Am I ranked highly? And yes, you need to be ranked highly because you need to be seen, right? To be chosen. But that really isn't everything. And that's where we get to this customer choice optimization, this focus on it's really a focus on converting your leads, right? If you're appearing, you want to make sure you're being chosen. I use this example for a while now, where you see car dealers near me. I don't know anyone who's probably going to pick that first one out of these three first, at least to even look at, because it doesn't have a lot of information. So what we really want to be doing, besides doing all those things we should be doing from an SEO perspective, and if you're on this call, if you're a customer of ours, you're probably doing most of those things, right? You're obviously concerned with these things, and you're hoping you can find some other nuggets to help you get more traffic, right? You're probably already appearing pretty well, or appearing, people are seeing you. But if someone is doing something that's going to get them more clicks, what does it matter? And so there's some things that you need to really ask yourself when you're thinking about customer choice optimization. We did some highlights before on specific features, but you really need to think about your industry. What's important for your industry? And then how can I take those things and convert them into the features that Google has? So starting off with understanding these following 4 questions. So what is the typical search path for my industry? So how are people searching for me? How do they get to, doing a search for listings? What is it that they want to see? What do those search results look like for that path? Because that could be different, which we're going to show. There could be 8 different ways or more that your business listing appears online. So, and each of those things highlights different features. The next thing you need to know is what factors are most important to customers in my industry. So am I looking to save money? Am I looking for something close? Am I looking for someone, there's so many different feature factors. We just talked about a bunch of them, right? In that poll. And then lastly is what Google features could I be taking advantage of to best align with those factors, right? So how are they searching for you? What is Google presenting? What is most important? And then how can I use those things on the screen to optimize for? And I apologize, my camera is off. That was part of my computer shutting down. So so let's start with what is the typical search path for my industry. Obviously, it goes beyond regular search right now. We'll probably have a future session where we talk about that journey starting in social. We'll bring Kelly back, which we're excited to do again. But let's say you're starting within Google, right? And let's say we're going to do another poll. We're going to do this one really quickly. Last week, we highlighted the fact that Google has added this Open in Maps button. Over the past week, I've realized when I'm looking for things in my area, especially things where I'm going to go to there, when I'm looking for them, one of the first things I want to see is, well, where are they actually? So my mouse, my cursor is kind of going over here, and I'm looking. And if I want to look at more, I realize I'm hitting Open in Maps more than I'm hitting more places, which is really interesting. I'm curious, what are you all doing if you've done this? I'd really like to know this because I think and actually, if you want to throw up the poll really quick, we won't leave this up. We'll just leave this up for a minute. Because this will change search behavior. You're going to see 2 different things, whether you go to more places or Open in Maps, but it's also going to change potentially our metrics, right? If I'm here and I'm Nectar Juice Bar, am I going to get a search impression and then a map impression if I hit there? So I'm getting doubly clicked. And if I was number 4, when I used to get a search impression, am I going to get a map impression now because I'm going there? This is all going to change, but also what you might do on that profile may change as well. So we can shut this down, the poll. Don't need to keep it up too long, but I was just curious which way this was going. And very interesting. Very similar. Maps is leading just a little bit. And let's say we did take the map journey. I'm going to show you a couple different examples of how business listings can look. And I'm really curious. I'm not going to put up other polls. You can just drop things in the chat, but would love to know how your decision making might change depending on what you're seeing. So first up, let's say you're searching for a home healthcare agency. You have someone in your family, you need to hire someone. Based on profile alone, and I know reviews are a big part of that, but just based on what you see here, which of these businesses might you choose if you were searching for a home health agency? Casey, what about you? If you were just looking at these, what might you think?
So I personally would go for Angel Connection.
Mhm.
Main reason is they have a 4.9 star rating with 47 reviews.
Yes.
And so I'm really big on, okay, your star rating might be really good, but what's your quantity? Because it's pretty easy to get like 5 stars, right? Like Living Well Home Care when you only have 11 reviews. But
Right.
if 50 people are leaving you reviews and it's at 4.9, that's really important to me. Second is I feel like there's an image that I can trust. So like affordable caregivers, I appreciate the, you know, fact that it's not like a stock photo. Like Living Well Home Care maybe looks a little bit like a stock photo. Um,
Mhm.
Affordable Caregivers though doesn't look like a high quality photo. So it makes me kind of question, like, is this going to be actual quality service?
Right.
So yeah, and maybe there's a couple other things factored in there too, but yeah, Angel Connection would be my path.
Now, would it change for anybody looking at these now? Because now, how has this changed now? We've got the ratings are still there, obviously. We've get a few more pictures now on affordable caregivers. I'm surprised there were more pictures actually based on that front picture. These two have review snippets now, which are really great. This still has the great rating, some really great photos, but we're not seeing much more information there. Would anything change?
Hmm. I don't know. Well, I'll ask that question to you, Mike. What would change
I
in this experience?
Yeah, I think living the middle one might drop out completely. I think you to your point before, I think I was looking at like 3, 2, 1 kind of backwards, Angel Care, Living Well, Affordable Caregivers. Then when I go here, Living Well Home Care might drop out because there aren't a lot of pictures for me. There isn't a lot, but they have good reviews, and that's great as well. And we won't spend a lot of more time here, and would it change again? This is based on the Google Maps app. So I took a little video of each of these just to kind of give you a sense of what we're seeing. So affordable caregivers, surprisingly, they have a little review snippet. They go above and beyond for their customers. But we see a lot of informational images, a lot of stuff left over from COVID days. And even their post is left over from COVID days. So they really not a lot of current information. We look at Living Well Home Care and it looks even worse. There's nothing going on. There are no updates, no images, no nothing. And then you go and look at Angel Nursing Services. There's a review snippet. There's another review snippet. There's some photos of like the area. Some really great stuff there. And then updates, they have a current post. So as it ends, probably, I'm sure most would say, well, based on that and what we know, Angel Connection is probably the one that's going to catch our attention most, especially based on the reviews and everything else. But you can see how just don't even look at the reviews. Think about what you're seeing right away. Like, if even if they have 4.9 and 47 reviews, if all I saw was this, I might be a little suspect. It might be a little suspect, right? Are they that good, but they have no photos and they're not posting any updates? Are they even open now? What's going on? So, understand the journey that a customer may take going to your listing and all those ways it could appear. Because in fact, we'll kind of go here. What does search results look like for that path? So we saw 3 different search results. But the reason we want to look at that, there are 8 ways Google may present your business profile. This is just desktop. Places Finder, Local Services Finder, direct search results, maps. And as you scroll down each of these things, you're going to get different things. So in local services, you get the services. You don't see the services there, right? The appointment link is showing really great there, not so much there. Here you can see it identifies as women owned. It's not showing up on anything else. We go and look at mobile, Finder, direct search, maps app. In direct search, you probably find social feeds and social links there, and carousels with the socials links in there. The Maps app obviously is becoming a lot more full of information that I would expect to start moving into others. So knowing that you're going to look this way, that you're going to see these different features may help define what you're going to do. And here's the thing too, this is going to look different for a different industry. This is just a gym that I looked at, right? It's going to look different for a different industry. So once you know all that, one of the things, the next thing you need to know is what factors are most important to customers in my industry. I think if we're all honest about that, we already know that. We have friends, we have family, we know what we look for in our own lives. In fact, I'm going to use this is the last poll, I promise. I'm really curious. Let's say you're on a long trip and you need gas. What would be your primary driver for choosing a place to stop? Would it be convenience? Would it be, an easy on, easy off? Is it gas price? You want to save money? Is it healthy options? I know for me, when I'm traveling, I just assume I'm going to eat garbage. For me, knowing that a place is going to serve healthy, quick options might be a differentiator for me. And also clean bathrooms. How many of us are worried about that place we're going to stop at, what it looks like when we open that bathroom door? Very curious what you find important when you're on a trip, and it's funny, this gas sign right here, if you think about it, there's a certain optimization going on here, right? We know that BP, Sheetz, and Exxon have diesel. We know that Exxon has diesel and is open 24 hours a day, and they're right off. This is going to be a hard one if you just want convenience and you're looking for somebody that is open and it's really late. You're probably going to go there. What is the digital version of this, right? So let's see what we got from a poll perspective. What about you, Casey? I'm actually curious. I didn't ask you. What would you?
Convenience.
Convenience?
Yeah, gas, I also, I drive an electric vehicle now, so I don't.
Well, I'm also thinking of like you're on a highway, you're on a road trip.
Yeah,
You're going to do. So
usually.
convenience, gas prices, clean bathrooms. Okay. So there's a lot of things. So that's good to know. It's what is it that people are looking for and how do you talk about those things? And so that's great. And it really changes from industry to industry, right? Back in, I think, July, I highlighted a study that Near Media, Mike Blumenthal was on who is part of Near Media. Mike Blumenthal, top SEO, if you don't know who he is, Near Media, run by Mike Blumenthal. I keep bringing them up because I think they're brilliant. David Mim, who started the search ranking factor study, and the other one that I always forget. But anyway, they did a study where they were looking at, pardon?
Greg Sterling. We always
Sterling, I always forget his name. I'm so sorry. I feel so bad. So they did something that I had already been kind of doing a little bit, but in a much more structured way, which is looking at what really is important to customers. And so they looked at things like self-storage. They saw that price and proximity was the most important. They looked at physicians, reputation and images of staff are most important. And most people didn't even look at the local pack. They went right past it. Legal services, people were actually looking at organic. They were looking at what the SERP said. So basically, they're probably looking for terms that matched what it is they needed. And then restaurants, of course, star rating and menu. Like, I think that was a no-brainer. So understanding these things. Yeah, Casey?
I was going to say, I think one of the biggest things to take away from this that, I really try to hit home with a lot of our customers and people that we interact with is in this entire section, nothing that we talked about was ranking position 1 through 3, right? Like I feel like sometimes in the world of SEO, we hyperfixate a lot on, oh, but we have to get to position 1, we have to get to position 1, we have to get to position 1. And yeah, obviously that's the name of the game. Visibility is the name of the game in SEO. However, it's way more about what are you doing to optimize around conversion? Are you targeting your audience the correct way? Like, and from what we've seen, rankings will come if you're optimizing for your customer's intent. If you're really focusing in on what they want to see out of your business, then yeah, obviously it's great to rank position 1, but if you're position 3 and you're knocking it out of the park, or even if you're 5, even if you're further down in the experience, but you have the best choice and you're optimizing around that, you're going to see the benefit in your actions, and in the people who are requesting directions, clicking your website, calling your location. That's where it's really going to pay off.
And that in itself will help with rank because, as we've seen, at least local engagement can boost rank.
Yep.
So just getting more people to click on you, that's just exponentially going to continue to help you grow. So the last piece of this, once you've figured out what people are looking for, is figuring out what features you could be taking advantage of to best align with your customers. So, for instance, let's go back to the convenience store issue. So if convenience, if easy on, easy off is what people are looking for, beyond the map itself, what could you do? Let's say it's you and a couple that are convenient, right? Like it's you and you have a gas station, right? Another convenience store right next door. What are the ways that you can make yourself stand out? I'll start with one. I'll just start with this one. Like it'd be really easy. Things like post, like, hey, we're easy on, we're easy off, right? Maybe you have images showing proximity. You have an image and you show that your storefront is right next to that ramp that comes off, right? Or maybe, let's say you're that one that's a mile down the road. Maybe the convenience is an order ahead for food option, right? Like, hey, I'm on the road. I know I need to pick something up. I want something warm. I need gas. They have a restaurant in there. They serve pizza in there. I'm going to go ahead and order that ahead. So the convenience isn't I'm getting right off the highway and back on, but I'm going to drive another half mile so I can put gas and grab my pizza and leave, right? So what is the convenience? It doesn't necessarily have to be easy on, easy off. What do they need, and how can you make that easier? So healthy options. What's a great way to maybe highlight some of those?
Menu,
Yeah.
photos,
Yeah.
Google Posts.
Yeah. All great things. I mean, hey, I know no one else picked this, but for me, I think this would be great. I would love to know, like, hey, there's a place off the highway that I don't have to get some candy bars and some pre-made food and some other garbage and potato chips.
You know what I caught myself doing a lot too with, I know we're talking about, gas station or whatever, but even with like restaurants is like, there will be stock photos
Mhm.
that they'll upload, but I find myself really interested in like the actual photos.
Mm.
Like I ordered DoorDash the other day. I ordered IHOP on DoorDash.
Oh,
And I was looking at the menu, but then I found myself geared towards the customer photos that were being uploaded, or like photos that felt more real of like
mm,
the actual like plated meal. Um,
mm.
and I think it comes down to even like some of that distrust I think that consumers are experiencing
Yeah.
right now. And so like seeing like the real photo, whether it was taken by the business or by a customer, I don't know, that it was just like kind of an interesting like influence that it had over my
I
decision.
would think, like, forget about getting off the highways. Like if you're a gas station, let's say, depending on like if you're in a city, like having images, really good images of what the outside looks like to know that that's a safe place, that it's clean, like there are definitely things that could drive that. And merchant center is a potential one too, if you have items that you're selling in there. I'm going to speed this up because I also know we're getting down to
Oh,
our last
fine.
20 minutes or so. Gas prices, published gas prices, maybe there's offer posts, maybe there's ways to save money, clean bathrooms, images, posts. Maybe you have an image of like, hey, cleanest bathroom, something that's going to make people feel good about stopping. But really here, I'm going to kind of wrap this up. The point here is make sure that you're clickable, right? There's so many times I go online and I search a specific industry and I'm shocked at how hard it is to find someone I feel comfortable on clicking, and how so many businesses are just not taking advantage of what Google provides them. So we're going to continue to talk in the future about other focuses on things you can be doing, but we wanted to talk about the just the overall concept of this with everybody. So
Yeah.
moving on, because I know we do need to look at time.
Yeah, we do need to look at time. So, Mike, I think let's maybe hit on this one relatively quick.
Yes.
Um, so getting into this topic of anatomy of a Google business profile, we really want to talk about business summaries, because there's a couple different types. If you want to jump ahead, Mike. I wonder if I can control. No, it doesn't look like I can. All right. So there are three different types of short business summaries that you might see in local search results. The first one is one that is updated by you, the business. That's your business description. The second is one updated by Google themselves. That's the editorial summary. That's that small kind of snippet. We get asked all the time, can we please edit this? Well, no, Google controls it. And then the last one is the customer review snippets, where Google is essentially taking review text and pulling that up as kind of like a snippet of summary content. Sorry, like, do you want to take over?
Yeah, I'll take over. That's fine. So we wanted to just give you a little background on what Google says about these things. This will be available in the archive afterwards to look at this. So I'm going to go through this kind of quickly. I put a lot of information in here in Google's own words. So everything we see on these pages are what Google specifically says on their pages about these things. We all know what the business description is. We know it should be about 750 characters. But some things you might not know is Google's guidelines on this. They say the things not to do. Don't display low quality, irrelevant, or distracting content. So make sure you're spelling things right. Make sure you're not using funny characters. They want something to be nice and easy to read. Don't focus on promotions, prices, sales, or offers. Again, you just want general information about yourself, and don't add any links. Obviously, Google provides links for phone number, address, all those things. No need to put those in there. And then what we say, Google claims they show up on maps. They actually don't. They show up in a lot of weird places. Again, depending on your search experience, it may appear, it may not appear. But one thing's kind of a myth that's out there is that these have some SEO value. They may have a tiny bit, but they don't have as large of a value as people seem to think. That may change, but with Google having all these other summaries, it would make sense that they would rely more on their summary they make up based on the information they have and then the reviews. So
yeah, I've always been really skeptical of this one. I find it hard to believe that Google is not factoring this into some type of ranking consideration. Others in the industry have tested it out, said that it's not a major ranking factor, but at a minimum, it's a consideration and can help with conversion.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on, editorial summaries. This is something that popped up over the last year or so. Google says they give you a snapshot of popular businesses. It says that their writers compile these. We know now that Google's AI does a lot of these. So they haven't changed these pages yet. They can show up in a lot of different places, but unlike business descriptions, they cannot be edited. Some things that we've discovered. Summaries. I think summaries can give owners a good idea of what Google understands about your business, right? If you're this, let's say, freeway insurance, we know that Google sees that they provide policies for drivers and a variety of records. This first one, we know that Google sees them as having motorcycle insurance, but you can kind of see what Google understands. These shorter editorial summaries may appear in search results. Editorial summaries don't appear for all businesses. And they tend to be consistent across multi-location brands, but that's only if their naming is consistent. So we've seen instances where multi-location brands, if they had location designators, that Google may not have lined up that they're part of the same brand. And so why most of their brand locations would have that description, some of the newer ones wouldn't because Google didn't have them matched up yet. So if you're a brand and you're finding locations that don't have it, and your naming convention isn't consistent, then that could be a reason why they're not appearing.
Ooh, we got a fantastic comment from someone, and it looks like it was only sent to the host and the panelists. But I am going to say it out loud. You might want to remind attendees that what you have in SOCi. So if you're working with SOCi or a provider like SOCi, all are welcome here. But any update that you make on your Google business profile would get overwritten by a service like SOCi. So it's really important that if you are working with a provider for your listings management, that you are making those updates in that platform because it could get overwritten. So thank you for that point.
And actually, thank you, Larry. That may be something that we start doing at the beginning of every one of these, because that is something, it's always a good thing to keep in mind. Last thing on this, I did want to say, one of the common mistakes we find with editorial summaries, and we kind of discovered this with hotels because they've long been unable to change their regular business profile, is when these summaries are incorrect, it's usually because Google is getting bad information from somewhere else, and a lot of times it's from inside the house. Found a lot of times the information is incorrect on the business website or incorrect somewhere else somewhere else where that business controlled. So be very wary. If you see something incorrect, go check your pages first, check everything, make sure Google's not pulling that from somewhere else. Review snippets. This is another one that I didn't realize this was a summary, but it makes sense. There are two different types of review snippets that Google calls out. I didn't know that these little buttons were called place topics, but they are. These little buttons that appear under reviews are considered summaries. They're summarizing popular keywords that people are talking about. And Hopefully, if you've used these, if you click on them, it'll sort out reviews and that relate to those. And then the snippets at the top, the review snippets, are considered summaries. Places topics, again, I'm not going to go into too much, but this is how they appear. Google says that potential customers can find the main themes of your business this way. They use data from your business's reviews to provide these topics, and they're only created when a business has enough reviews. And Google goes on to say, if you don't have places topics, they can't create them on demand. You need enough of people talking about things. And you should pay attention to your reviews, because if you get bad reviews, abusive reviews, whatever those might be, they can start to influence those places topics. So another reason why you should really be paying attention to your reputation and what people are saying, especially if they're saying the wrong things. If they're saying that you have something that you don't, that could create even more issue.
Absolutely.
Review
Over
snippet.
this section, Mike, I've been getting plagued with cough attacks this whole time.
Yeah, no worries. I'm here to help. So review snippets. These tend to be what's most mentioned in quotes, but review snippets tend to appear when they're most relevant to what the search query is. We've seen them in a lot of different places. Again, you can read afterwards and download this and see what Google says about it, but they appear in a lot of places besides just there. They can appear in search results to highlight specifically what you're looking for if something is related. They may appear in your profile. If you're a food and beverage customer, Google may take those reviews and add them with photos to make a collage. If you're a service business, you may, we know this, we may find them at the top of our profiles. We talked about that earlier. And certain service industries may see this, something that Google's been testing this about this place, where it combines places topics with photos and review snippets to give you an idea of what that place is like. So Google is really using reviews and photos and everything else to try and paint a picture. One other thing that Google included in this, which I was very surprised about and I didn't realize, is these review snippets for hotels comes from a TrustYou, a third party that creates these summaries, which I didn't realize. So Google isn't necessarily doing this themselves. All hotels that work with one of the third-party providers are eligible for unified hotel reviews section, but they can't provide a list of third-party providers. So they don't really give a lot of information here, but I thought this little bit of information was just interesting enough. If you're a hotel, want to know where these are coming from, now you know. One last thing, this wasn't on Google's help pages yet, but we talked about this last month, and I'm assuming it will be categorized as a summary, are these review summaries with Gemini, which I think are great. If you didn't see this last month when we talked about it, starting to appear in the Google Maps app. It summarizes reviews. Google says it's based on English reviews from the past year and is updated weekly. So if you see something you don't like, if you're getting a lot more reviews, it may change. So again, I think this is really fascinating. A great feature. Lastly, if things are incorrect, Google does have a way to contact. They tell you what you can change, what you can't change. Again, we'll have this for you to in the archive afterwards. You'll get this. You'll be able to click on this if you have things and you want to know more about how you can try and get rid of these things if they're incorrect. But also, I included in this document a bunch of helpful links. These are all links that go to the pages for the copy that I just went through. So I think it's really important. I get a lot of questions about all of these things. So it's one of the reasons we wanted to start doing this feature. So hopefully this was informative. So lastly, the fun stuff.
Yeah, so
Casey, you want to go into this one?
yeah, I can go for this one. Thanks.
Okay.
Taking over, Mike. Too much talking. I wind up like hacking. So not a lot of new Google Business Profile categories from what we've noticed. There is now K through 12 school available as a category in the education area. But what we did notice are some new attributes. So lots of new attributes available to grocery customers. If you have a bakery, if you sell flowers, if you serve food, passport photo services, if you have a pharmacy, those are all now attributes available to you. Gyms, the attribute of having a shower. Another one that Mike mentioned has actually been out for a while, but we haven't seen it around. It maybe just snuck in, was membership required is another attribute. Something only available via API for food and beverage, from what we can tell, is good for working on laptop. I know that is one that Mike is interested in kind of testing out and following along. So, you know, it's interesting to see when Google rolls these attributes out, which ones are available in the interface versus which ones are available only via API, because that does actually happen. So working with a provider like SOCi is actually really beneficial to kind of capture all of these.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I want to look at the work good for working on laptop is just to see, is this a mistake by Google when they do this, or does this actually show up? So we want to get this published because that is a great little benefit for those who have who are connected via API through a service like ours. If Google is sneaking these in, we've seen them with some clothing stores too, like department stores, things like Has Clothing, kind of or have men's clothing, women's clothing have snuck in here before they've shown up on the listings themselves. I will say one other thing on grocery, things like Has Bakery, sells flowers. I think those were showing up as attributes in the past, but you couldn't actually directly affect them. So it's great that Google's actually allowing you to go in and address these things directly. So, and lastly, we talked about this last week, but I wanted to bring this up again because in my conversation with Google, Google is very interested in seeing businesses take advantage of this. And that makes me think if Google's interested, number one, I think they think it's just a good feature. But again, we may see that interactions with this feature may be considered when looking at ranking potentially, right? Are people engaging with this business? Is the business engaging back? And if that's the case, Google may look at that as a signal and say, well, here's an active business that's going to be ready to answer your questions, right? And serve them up. We don't know. Obviously, there's nothing behind that. That's just me kind of speculating on this. But as I like to say, if Google's asking for it, they probably want it. And I'm going to give you a little anecdote based on a kind of tangential anecdote. I don't know. Last year I was talking about around this time, or well, when we first started, about what Google wants. And if Google's asking for something, it's probably important. One of the things I talked about a lot over the past, since we started this, is about social links and adding those. We did a test recently, and the initial results may show they were very active customers. They post a lot. That just adding those links may have actually, based on our test group and our control group, have actually shown a positive ranking benefit, just adding those links because they're active over there. Google has never said that that's a ranking factor. I don't know that a lot of people have done research on it, but if Google's asking for it,
it might be a ranking factor.
Yeah. So, and then lastly, just fun things I like to catch in the wild. I didn't catch a lot this week because the things I caught were things that ended up becoming features, and things that I could talk about. But one I just discovered late last week that I haven't had a chance to look into yet. It's not necessarily a local feature, but it came up when I was searching for a local customer, which is something called current styles. And when this loops back around, I search for bracelets in this instance. And what you see is you get this current styles, and it creates these little cards with images, links to shopping, Quora, Amazon, Babbel, Julie. And then you click on it, could go to Pinterest, and then we're getting a bunch of Pinterest images, some things from websites, other areas. So
it's interesting because it's very even like Pinterest reminiscent. And so for them to be even getting some of this content like from Pinterest itself, I don't know, it's interesting.
It's very curated looking.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and it feels a lot like even like expanding upon like related searches.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like almost visualizing related searches to some degree. So this is an interesting find.
Yeah, and even though it's not inherently local, it does just speak to the kind of features Google is thinking about, right? And trying to, again, like you said, it looks kind of Pinteresty. How are they trying to incorporate what others are using in other areas and making Google feel like that in some way? So, so here we are. We're just a couple minutes left. I hope today was informative. I was really interested in talking about all these things. I hope you're interested in hearing them. Are there any questions with the last like 2 to 3 minutes we have left? We also love to hear about things you'd like to hear in the future. I don't know, Casey, you have any?
Yeah, I mean, I always appreciate everybody's conversations in the chat. It's so helpful to engage in conversation. There was some really good back and forth about subdomains and subfolders, and so I feel like we'll have to get into the lore of that maybe sometime soon in a future session, because I mean, we could have spent the whole hour talking about that today. So, but it's a favorite topic of mine, so maybe that's something we can explore definitely in the future.
One thing I'm hoping we'll be talking about maybe in the either next month or the following month is the new ranking factor study for the industry should be coming out soon.
Very good.
It's been 2 years now almost, so I'm very excited to talk about that stuff. What gas station am I going to for Healthy South? Good question. Someone needs to advertise that. So we are at time. So I do want to again thank everybody. And we'll see you next month.
See you next month. Thanks, everyone.